If you've heard it, so have we.
If you hate it, we probably do too.
If you like it, we'll see.
But either way, we've heard it all. Hey,
I
girl.
never get tired of that.
No. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
Yeah.
The work week is done. I have a very abbreviated week next week.
Oh,
so
good.
I can't complain. Can't complain. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm off for the holidays, so I have no more work. Very excited about it. So I'm just going to chill out, and then I'm going to head home and then chill out some more.
I love a good chill out.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all I've been doing. But actually, you know what I rewatched last night?
What did you watch?
Booksmart.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's one of my favorite movies. I think I can say that now that I've seen it so many times and I have a little bit of distance from when it came out. But I was watching it with my friend and he was saying, wait, this is the class of 19. This is the last class that got to graduate normally before COVID.
Yeah, you're right.
It is a time capsule of the before times.
It really is because I don't think the film works post-COVID.
No, and I got really emotional because it's such a freeing movie. I was like, I miss that. And I also just miss, and we could talk about this for hours, just a good R-rated comedy.
Yeah. Yeah, actually we did have this conversation, I think, like yesterday. And I feel like we'll probably do a upcoming episode about it.
Yeah.
But just like how we don't have any good comedies anymore.
No. And it's
not what we're getting.
Devastating. And I want us to get back to that. And I don't think there's no hope, but I think that audiences have to demand it. But
I think it's a little slim. Because
a little slim.
Studios don't tend to listen to the audiences.
No, they said, fuck the consumer. But yeah. But that's not what we're talking about today. What are we talking about today?
We have got a packed and full schedule for today.
A packed
and full.
Okay.
Packed and full.
Thank you.
Schedule. Listen, no Southern discrimination.
Okay,
please.
You're right.
I don't even think I sounded particularly Southern there, but that's
down.
fine. Stand down.
All
At
right.
ease, soldier.
I will.
So, today we are going to be talking about Sesame Street and the fact that HBO has not renewed their deal. So we're no longer... Sesame Street no longer has a home.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about that and kind of how this was set into place and what happens after that. And then I would also like to talk about Emilia Perez because I have seen the film.
Okay.
And it's getting some Oscar buzz. It was already nominated for some Golden Globes. So going to dive into that a little bit and also talk about the Selena Gomez of it all. And from there, I think we're going to pivot and use that conversation when we talk about Stan brain and like Stan culture.
Yeah, I feel as though it's 2024. I think we need to leave Stan culture behind. We won't, but maybe the more we talk about it, the more people will realize that they should.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Let's talk about literally the most devastating news of the week. Sesame Street not getting renewed at HBO. So technically, HBO canceled it in a way. That doesn't mean Sesame Street will go away, but it means that it doesn't have a home to air on. So I know you've done some research. I've done some research. Tell me what you know.
Yeah. So like you said, we just found out that HBO is not renewing. Basically what they're doing is they're leasing Sesame Street, just for anyone who's not aware. HBO does not own it. Sesame Workshop owns the rights to Sesame Street. So in 2015, Sesame Workshop basically sold the rights to produce and air new episodes of Sesame Street to HBO and their parent company, Warner Brothers. Actually, I don't know where I was going with this. I totally lost my train of thought.
I will say, so yeah, that happened in 2015. But what most people don't understand, because there was a lot of backlash, and I remember when they got sold to HBO, because it didn't make any sense to me, because Sesame Street, as we know, is public programming to help kids with the gap of pre-kindergarten education. But what people didn't know, and this doesn't make it any better, but HBO had the rights to first air episodes, which means that when episodes first air, they will go to HBO. 9 months later, those episodes will show up on PBS. So they're not completely unavailable or inaccessible to the public. It's just that it's going to be a delayed effect. And I'm pretty sure originally it was a 5-year contract that was renewed for a little bit, and they chose not to renew it this year.
Yeah. And so I figured we can kind of start with the inception of Sesame Street and what it was originally intended to do. So I did a little bit of research, and I'm gonna pull from this, and then there's also some like pop culture outlet articles that I think kind of really help tie in how it's strayed away from its intended purpose with it going to HBO, and kind of what this pivot from HBO kind of foretells about streaming landscape in general, but then also like the future of Sesame Street. So this first little snippet that I'm going to pull from is from Daniel Anderson in their article, Education Television is Not an Oxymoron, which was in which was in the, how do you say this? It's Annals? Annals?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. The Annals of the American Academy of Political and Social Science. So it's official. So you can believe me when I say this.
Cool.
Basically, they talk about how, compared to what had previously been available for young children, the revolutionary nature of this television program is difficult to overstate. The program is based on an ambitious curriculum designed to teach preschoolers intellectual skills and knowledge relevant to success in school. And it was the first to target children from disadvantaged circumstances. It was the first children's program to routinely employ research in the development of its characters, settings, and content. It was the first children's program that set out to seriously compete with commercial television for its audience. And so I think it is super critical to root Sesame Street in its purpose, which was reaching out to especially low-income communities and like children, and getting them prepared for school, or even prepared for preschool, because preschool is not obviously readily accessible to the majority of Americans. And obviously it was instilled first here in the United States, but from this point it has spread to like programs all over the world. And so it makes sense that Sesame Workshop first started with like PBS, which the whole thing of PBS is that it's accessible to the public, and it's really working for kids who aren't provided like the resources that you would get in like preschool.
And also, I really want to emphasize the point that they said about Sesame Street being very revolutionary, because there was no children's programming that was educational, that was created by education experts with a distinct research-backed curriculum to help fill in those information gaps in early education for kids. And the fact that it was founded with a lot of federal backing as well is something that's key in like looking at the trajectory of Sesame Street. Because I think it was on PBS early on, but the first preview of a Sesame Street was on NBC to just like see what people thought of it. And people evidently loved it. And there was research that showed that because kids were watching Sesame Street, they were testing higher, they were performing higher once they went to school. And that, even though this provided a great opportunity for low-income children, it just across the board, students were just performing much better by having this programming. So I'll let you continue, because the funding stuff is really what upsets me.
Yeah, so I'm actually really glad that you mentioned the funding stuff, because I was doing my research and I found this article from The Hollywood Reporter. I'm going to link it in our show notes and stuff like that. But it's called Where Sesame Street Gets Its Funding and How It Nearly Went Broke. So they talk about like the income and like how expensive it is to produce Sesame Street. Even for PBS, which was, they were producing, I think, around like 18 episodes per season. And let me pull just a little bit from this article. They were talking about how after the 2008 recession, corporate funding dried up, while at the same time DVD sales started bottoming out, all of which nudged the show into the red. In 2014, the year before it migrated to HBO, the program was operating at a loss of $11 million.
That's so much money.
Which is tough to read. Yeah. And I can't remember if it was in this article or a different one that I read. I'll link all of them in the show notes, but it was basically talking about like how expensive of a show it is, just because they are producing 18. They have this really intricate set. They have to pay all of like their puppeteers like a living wage. They're doing all this research behind the scenes, and so it was just it was a very expensive show.
Yeah.
If you keep reading, it says the financial squeeze necessitated the deal with the pay channel, meaning HBO. Quote, "It was one of the toughest decisions we ever made," says Steve Youngwood, Sesame Street's COO. He admits the conversations with PBS were complicated. And so money obviously is at the crux of why the rights were sold away from PBS to HBO, because especially during 2015, this is when streaming channels are still kind of on the rise. Even at this point, most studios didn't have their own dedicated one. I think even with this, it was sold and was used on HBO. What was it? HBO Now or something like that? It's changed like 10 different times. Something like that. So it was on that. But they also bring up this really cool chart of like Sesame Street's revenue streams and how it gets its money. And so this would have been in like 2015 or 2016, but basically how they break it out. Hang on, I need to zoom in.
While you're pulling up that diagram, I will say just some other kind of factoids is that Sesame Street's federal funding was terminated, I believe, in either 1981 or 1984, because at first there was a lot of federal backing of the program. Like, this is a program that was revolutionary. Even like, not to bring up his name, but Richard Nixon was writing to Joan Gans Cooney, who was the previous head of the Children's Television Workshop, now named Sesame Workshop, saying this is amazing. It won a Peabody Award. Like, it was universally revered, acclaimed. But as you go on, the first thing to be cut is always education. And the reason that Sesame Workshop started venturing into like corporate sponsorships and diversifying their revenue stream was because the Department of Education was kind of being a little bit tardy on making those payments. There was one annual cycle where they did not know they were going to get DOE funding until the last minute. So they had to go out and find other sponsorships beforehand, but have now seen that they need to rely on those corporate sponsorships and toy merchandising and licensing and doing all of that. Whereas they should have just been federally funded to make sure that they were able to keep their content authentic. Which some people have critiqued the program for leaning into these corporate sponsorships because they think that there might be some sort of bias that could be introduced. But if the government's not going to fund it, they have to find money elsewhere.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly it. So I've got this chart pulled up. So again, this is probably from around like 2015, but basically this is the breakdown of how Sesame Street makes its money. They estimate that 39% is in distribution fees and royalties. So at this time, it would include the fee that HBO paid Sesame Workshops for the rights to run, to air first run episodes. 31% they're estimating are from philanthropic donations. So that's like private donations from companies and foundations. 26% is product licensing. So with partners like Hasbro, that money's coming in from them using their IP to make toys, like anything Sesame Street branded. And only 4% is from government grants. And so they specifically say it's less than $5 million a year, barely enough to cover Sesame Workshop's office rent. Which, like, yeah, that's probably problematic that they're paying millions of dollars in property rent, but what are we going to do about that?
Like, well, I mean, if it's like a multi-story building in New York, that kind of
I get
sense.
it.
But
But, I mean, it just kind of goes to show how little support we're getting from government subsidies, which when you take all that into consideration, it's actually not that shocking that they would sell to HBO because they were already operating at such a huge profit loss. And I think one of the troubles, or not one of the troubles, but like one of the problems in a capitalistic society is we're not putting importance on Sesame Street as a product that does outreach to children and really works to develop them educationally and emotionally. And we only put, the importance on how much revenue it brings.
Yeah. When money is the only thing you're worried about, it's programs like Sesame Street that are going to fall to the wayside. And I think at any other point in time, if Sesame Street was looking for a home, I'd be a little bit less concerned. I'm more concerned now, given, obviously, the presidential administration that we are heading into, the person that they've put in charge of the Department of Education, and that being a complete joke. I'm very concerned because also, when you think about Sesame Street's standard structure or template of programming, it is really hard to do that in the age of voracious consumption that we're in right now.
Yeah.
And the way that kids are consuming content and media is so different than they used to. They can't sit still as long as they used to be able to. A lot of the other programs that are couched in between Sesame Street are not conducive to their development or their attention spans. So how do you have an educational program like Sesame Street work in that? And so I think there's so many factors working against it, even though it's a thing that we need, because there have been so many studies of just putting kids in front of slower programming or just older movies, putting a kid in front of The Sound of Music. It slows their temperament and makes them calmer, makes them more patient. But I think that this is a greater conversation about parenting and early education, is that we are always looking for convenience. And we have to start we have to start being comfortable with inconveniences, because that's the only way that we are going to get back to a sense of community and helping each other out, and also fostering a future in which these kids can learn and grow and be humans. Because it's not just about intelligence, it's about emotional intelligence as well that they're teaching on the show.
Yeah. And oh God.
I was getting really emotional doing the research for this, just thinking of me growing up with Sesame Street and how so much of what I learned on how to interact with others and how to be a good daughter or a good friend or a good community member was based on, this is one of the first programs to teach kids about what is death and how to respond to death. And even the character of Snuffleupagus, Mr. Snuffy, they eventually, he was Big Bird's imaginary friend, but they eventually introduced him to the adults because they did not want to teach kids that parents wouldn't believe them if something bad was happening to them.
Yeah.
Because there was an increase of, domestic violence and domestic assault cases amongst children, and they didn't want kids to think that parents wouldn't believe them if they couldn't see what was happening to them. And it's a program that's very in tune with its audience, that it's in tune with its needs, and we don't have that, and it would be such a loss to lose that.
Yeah. It's so tough. It makes me so angry.
We don't, for a country that uses kids as a branding tool, we don't care about them at all.
Oh, we do not value children and their experience in the slightest. Because, this is one of the only research-backed children's programming that, actually goes beyond a surface level of, children's interests and stuff. I'm even thinking about, can't remember how many years ago it was that, they brought on this character who was a refugee, and they're having those timely conversations with children at such a young age when the majority of parents do not know how to have those conversations. And it's so important. I think that Sesame Street really worked to fill a gap in parroting conversations that our parents were not prepared to have, and they didn't have the language or the capability to have those conversations. It just it's such a loss of not having this publicly accessible, because even though HBO was they're making double the amount, I think they're up to 34 episodes a season.
That's so much.
But it's still, you'd have to wait 9 months after it ran to get new episodes of Sesame Street. And another point that I was reading about is how devastating the loss of DVD popularity was, because before that point you could sell entire seasons en masse and keep returning to those, but in our post-streaming world you had to have a prescription. You had to have a subscription to HBO, which is one of the most expensive programming services that we have, even now.
Yeah, and I read that, so the last season will premiere in January of 2025, and the library of backlogged episodes will be available on it's called Max now, right? Max's streaming service for a couple more months. And that's where I'm really concerned about the ephemerality of that media and how, where's it going to go? Who's archiving it? Who's keeping that like bank of episodes of Sesame Street for accessibility? Where's that going to go now?
I was thinking that too. And I think we should do an episode on like physical media and the importance of it.
Yes.
It's just because I think especially we saw this last year with HBO writing off like 4 or 5 movies that they had already produced. They had already made. They were done. Like, what was it? Batgirl, I think was one of them.
Yes, it was already done.
But just like, they write it off for their taxes, which I don't understand how that works. Feels weird that you can do that.
Yeah.
Whatever. But like, that film and the work that was done on it is all just gone. There's no way to access it. There's no way to see it. And so the decline in physical media is really scary, especially for streaming, for television and movies that are specifically distributed through like streaming platforms like HBO, Netflix, and stuff like that, because most of the time they're not producing physical copies of this. So you either have to buy bootleg, which I'm not against.
Not at all.
If you can't get it, buy bootleg.
I think...
Or like you just run the risk of losing it forever. Like,
I know. And that's why I will always say this until the day I wither away. Please invest in physical media. I know it seems like clutter. I know it feels like it's just like dead weight in your house or wherever you live. But if you love your media, buy it. Figure out a way to get it in a physical form. Especially as we enter this new Trump administration. Whatever you see online is so transient. It doesn't exist, actually. It's code. It is code. Please get it physical. You will not regret it.
Yeah. And this actually, this brings it in. I really like this article. It's from AOL, which I had been on AOL and
oh my gosh, AOL, what a throwback.
But yeah, they wrote an article, HBO ends deal with Sesame Street halting new episodes, and they approached it from a really interesting perspective. I think you'd really like it. They basically encircled this article around Sesame Street's legacy in the Black community because it did so much outreach to like inner city children, stuff like that, and they kind of framed this whole episode or this whole article with the upcoming Trump administration. And so just to pull a little bit from this is a quote. As we've launched Max, though, and based on customer usage and feedback, we've had to prioritize our focus on stories for adults and families, and so new episodes from Sesame Street at this time are not as core to our strategy. Which, first of all, fuck off.
Fuck off.
Go to hell. I don't know. But then it says, though HBO says the decision not to renew its deal with the show reflects a shift away from children's programming, the timing has many speculating a broader message. As previously reported by the Griot, Donald Trump's presidency and Project 2025 pose threats to education and public media. And it actually links out to 2 different articles that they've written, but basically talking about the Trump administration's outlook on public education, especially when it comes into learning about marginalized communities and how that's under attack. But then it also links out to an article about public media and how they are very anti-journalism, anti-democratic policies within Project 2025. And it's a really great article. I think everyone should read it. But it is scary just how it's coinciding with these threats that we're having to public education, to public libraries, to the teaching of like Black and brown history and like marginalized communities.
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence that we're seeing all of this come up. And but also like the decline in like traditional news media coverage because everyone's kind of scrambling because everyone's fucking terrified of a Trump presidency and what this means for public media consumption.
Yeah.
It's just scary.
Yeah, and that's what I would tell to people. I think I'm seeing a lot of complacency about what could be coming. And here's what I'll say. I love the phrase of do not comply in advance. Do not uproot your life and change what is happening right now ahead of something that could happen. But I do think everyone should be having a plan. of not only how you're protecting yourself and your community, but also a plan of how you are going to resist this in different ways. If that is like budgeting monthly donations, if that is doing mutual aid work, if that is going into your community and like finding a way to make it normal, because I think a lot of people are taking all of these things for granted, especially like public education, public access to information at libraries. A lot of librarians are very concerned that if not given the proper resources and funding, they will not be able to preserve history that is happening now. And people will try to rewrite the history that has already been preserved or get rid of it or destroy it to basically rewrite what is happening in our country, what has happened in our country. So I think people are a little like, the libraries have been around forever. They're not going to... I'm like, well, here's my thing. After 4 years, I would love to be like, okay, great, nothing happened. I would love to say that.
Yeah.
But I do not trust this administration, and I will not act like I trust them. So if I am proven wrong, great. But until I am, I'm going to get to work.
Yeah.
And I think everyone should. And it doesn't have to be... It does not have to be backbreaking. Like, you just have to find a way to make it doable for you. And that's what I'll say. And getting off the high horse now.
It's okay. I love the high horse.
Saddle off.
So yeah, I mean, this kind of brings us to what happens now. Basically, Sesame Workshop is going to shop around Sesame Street and see if any distributor wants to pick it up. Whether that would be, you know, going back to PBS. I don't know if they have the funding to take it at this point.
I don't
Honestly,
think so.
It makes it really sad to say, but I don't think it's going to be possible. There's always the possibility that another streaming service wants to take it. So, I mean, that's basically where it's at, which is like they're just shopping for a new home for Sesame Street, and hopefully it finds one soon. I'm not feeling super confident about it, just with the way our landscape is and how I can see it going.
If every celebrity that's ever been on Sesame Street donated,
I'm about to talk about this.
Okay.
You're just jumping ahead. So I was on social media. No. We need to talk about this. Because especially in the last, like, I would say, like, not even 5 years, probably like 3 or 4 years, there's been a really big push. Well, I'm not even gonna say that. They've been doing this since Sesame Street started, but they're having celebrities on there, and they do like little cameos. They interact with the characters and stuff like that. But I just saw...
Sorry, quick thing I'll say. If I was a celebrity, that's my bucket list item. I want to be on Sesame Street.
I know.
Like, if I was a celebrity, I don't care about anything else. Put me on Sesame Street.
It's so special and so
right?
meaningful.
Yeah, that and like maybe SNL. SNL would be fun.
Yeah.
And then that's it. I'm done. I'll retire. Okay, keep going.
But I saw Sesame Street is making a bunch of social media content featuring like celebrities that they've had on there.
I saw one with Michael B. Jordan.
That's the one I was specifically going to be talking about because I watched it and I was like, oh. And then I thought about it a little more. I was like, oh. So basically the video is him talking about like donating to Sesame Street because now it no longer has a home. And he also talks about how he grew up on Sesame Street as a child actor and was like featured on the show. But then I was like, you know what? Yeah. Hell yeah. But then I was like, wait. Why are you asking me for money, Michael B. Jordan? Why are you the millionaire asking little old me to donate for viewers like me? Open up your purse.
Because...
And it makes me so angry. It makes me so angry that, like, I'm sure they're going to get more and more celebrities to do this, but this kind of ties back. I don't know if you remember this, but... Whenever all the fires were going on in Hawaii, The Rock and Oprah like made a video like where they set up this fund to donate, but they didn't donate themselves. They were just like asking people to donate through a charity that they signed up for.
I don't remember.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, The Rock, you get paid $50 million to make a shitty movie. Open up the purse, go to go and jog to the bank.
Yeah. Well, on one hand, it's like, yeah, they should open their purse. Just, like, collectively. You know, like, if you're gonna be that rich, like, you just need money flowing every month. And I know that a lot of them do because it's a big tax write-off for them. Yeah. But I also, like, the basis of public broadcasting is that, like, the community, like, it's, like, paid for by viewers like you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Heard that so much growing up. And I know it's just, like, people... I feel twofold about this. I see that way of thinking. My other way of thinking is that we have also lost what it means to pay for your media. Because here's my thing, is that, like, I, you know, like, got a New Yorker subscription because, you know, like, I want someplace, and you know what, fuck the New York Times. I'll say it. Fuck the New York Times, you know? Your reporting in the past year? Deplorable. I'll say it. Do love a connections every now and then, but
I know.
maybe I should really just stop and stand with my morals. But anyways, I got a New Yorker subscription because want to do my games there, and I love their articles, and I'm always like hit with a paywall. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna pay for this media because it's like $50 for a year. It's actually, they make so many deals around the holidays, and even like as a Substack user, like I'm trying to decide who I want to subscribe to because I think we need to get back into learning the value of media, the value of journalistic integrity, and how it's money. It's money that drives people to stick to their word and stick to their morals and stick to their craft. But everyone wants everything for free because, again, of this post-streaming mindset. We want it now. We want it easy. We want it accessible. And people don't want to pay for their media anymore. And so I do see that. For sure. But I think it's a collective. I think on a very smaller scale, like a $5 scale, like where I'm giving $5, celebrities should be giving like $1 million.
Yeah. And I do agree. I wonder if it's possible now, because if I'm thinking about like the height of like PBS and like publicly funded media, that was like in the 90s when shit was dirt cheap. We didn't have, like, you had, like, one newspaper, like, I keep saying prescription. I don't know why.
That's okay.
You had, like, one newspaper subscription.
Yeah.
That was it. That's all you're paying for in your media. And now we're having to pay for each individual journalistic site. We're having to pay for each streaming service. We're having to pay for cable on top of it if you want cable. You're having to pay for, we're having to pay for so much stuff. I don't know. We're not making enough money. We're not making more money.
Yeah.
And just I don't know if it's possible.
This is a rat race.
There's so much distrust. Yeah, there's so much distrust in the media.
I know. And that's
on
where
both sides now, where it's just like I don't
know where to go.
Yeah.
And that's my thing. I think that there used to be this sort of like universal trust of what the media was saying, and like Trump has been a poison to this country in that sense, of the ways that it has made media not like neutral or like across party lines, but like pro-Trump, not pro-Trump. Like that's where everyone falls now. So no, I understand that. I think if you have the means, pay for your media. If you don't have the means, go to your local library. Go to the library. Okay.
You got a question? Please go to the library.
Yes.
I guarantee they can have an answer for 99% of it.
The amount of things that I've told people that they can go to the library for, people have been like, what are you talking about? I'm like, these are community centers. They have such wealth.
That's the point.
Oh, they have so many resources, so much knowledge. Should I become a librarian? Actually, no. Let me look at the job market first. Let me look at the trajectory of that.
The job market for the next 4 years might not be looking good.
I know, because even like I wanted to go back to school to like get my like law librarianship degree, because I think it's the closest I can get to like the moral quandary of being a lawyer without having to do that. But then I'm like, will there be law? Because even I have friends in law school who are like, the things I'm reading now, based on the Constitution, based on all this, it's like, is this going to be fuck all later on? Yeah. So I feel like we've gone downhill. We have to dig ourselves out of this now.
Yeah.
But that's all I have to say on Sesame Street. If you're listening to this now and you have the means to donate to the Sesame Workshop, yes, please do.
Yeah.
But if you know rich people, send them the link.
Yeah. Start talking to them about it. Talk to them about the benefits of publicly accessible media for children.
Yeah, and if they say they don't want to, you could say you hate kids. You said fuck the kids?
You want them to get onto the jail pipeline?
That's a whole nother conversation.
You want them to go to prison?
Okay, they won't go to prison if they don't watch Sesame Street.
But you can tell the rich people that.
That's true.
It's fine to lie if you're
They're so scared of that.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Okay. Anyways.
We have to be done.
That's enough. We love Sesame Street. We hope it's saved.
Now
We're curious to see what happens next.
Let's talk about Selena.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So we kind of figured now that we're hopping into award season, we can just, once one of us sees like an awards contender, we can do a little dive into it, a little review of what we're doing. So the Golden Globes just came out. Was it like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Which, like, Golden Globes,
I've never been a fan of the... Okay, I have never been a fan of the Golden Globes in terms of regarding their choices as anything I need to take seriously.
Oh, for sure.
I think it's a fun night. I would love to be invited. I'd love to go have a drinky and watch people be messy.
Yeah. Golden Globes, if you're listening, bring us on as correspondents.
Yeah. Oh, correspondence on the ground. I thought you were about to say co-host. I said absolutely not.
No. I don't want to go there.
Girl,
I just want to like drink and be on the red carpet.
Yeah. Also, if I was a host, no jokes, no banter. I'm just like, here's next. I'm gonna have
we got to get through this.
They're gonna be in and out in an hour. Better eat quick, okay?
Everyone is getting drunk. We got to go.
Yeah.
Everyone's getting sloppy. Anyways, sorry. Going back to this. So I recently saw Emilia Perez, and I will say that one of the reasons I was drawn to watch it was because of all of the Selena stuff going around on social media, and we'll get into that later. But I'm not going to be giving spoilers, just because I don't think it's necessary. I am going to be talking about one plot point, which it's not featured in the trailer, because I watched the trailer, but it is stated in like the Google description of it, so I don't think it's a spoiler. I'm going to say it. So when I was going into watching Emilia Perez, which is distributed by Netflix, so you can watch it on Netflix, I didn't know anything about it. And that's actually like one of my favorite ways to go into movies, just like not knowing anything about it. So I'm just going to read what Google says it's about, and then I'll go into it. So a Mexican lawyer is offered an unusual job to help a notorious cartel boss retire and transition into living as a woman, fulfilling a long-held desire.
That sounds really interesting, actually.
Yes. So I actually had no idea what was going on, like, when I first started it. It's also a musical, so I do want to preface it by that.
Not marketed as one.
Not marketed as a musical. It's a musical. It's very good. So I'm just going to go through the process of when I started watching the movie. So I'm watching the film. Obviously, like, production companies and stuff start popping up. I'm going in. I'm like, a lot of this is in French. It's kind of confusing. So I keep going, and then I see the director. So the director and a lot of the production is, like, French companies. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because this movie is, like, set in Mexico and in Spanish. More into that later.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed the movie.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. I think everyone should watch it. And one thing that I was getting frustrated with when I was watching it is just how much of the film and like in its entirety is getting drowned out by all the Selena Gomez stuff. Because it is a really interesting story following Zoe Saldana, who is the lawyer in this, and her meeting this like cartel boss, and the cartel boss talking about how they want to transition into being a woman. And that happens like pretty early on. And I was like, oh, like I didn't know that this was like a movie about like a trans woman, specifically a lesbian trans woman.
Okay.
And it's really making me frustrated that that context is getting lost because Selena Gomez conversations are taking over it. It even just like, I hadn't heard anything about Zoe Saldana's performance in this, and she is literally incredible. I mean, like, this is probably one of my favorite roles that she's ever done.
Wow.
She's so talented. Her, like, musical scenes, I'm going to send you a link to one because I need you to watch it later, even if you don't watch it, because, like, she's just fantastic. Like, has this really great understanding of the character, does really, like, interesting work with it. She's so compelling to watch. And then there's Selena Gomez. And the way that everyone was talking about her, I thought that she was, like, a central character to this film. I think she's probably in the movie for 20 to 30 minutes of this. And it's, like, a 2-hour and 30-minute long movie.
First of all, whoa, that's long.
Actually, I just said that. That could not be correct.
Yeah, I'll say a little bit of what I've heard about this movie, because I remember when it went to Cannes and it was premiering there, all the posters have Selena on as the main feature on the poster, which is why I was very surprised when you texted me and said she's not really in it for that long. And it seems like Zoe Saldana, and do you have the name of the actress that's in it?
Yes. Carla Sofia Gascon.
Okay, yes. These two are the main characters, and I was surprised I didn't hear anything about them. I wish I had seen more interviews from them. And so it felt like whoever was doing the marketing for this movie was really trying to, which, okay, on one hand, I get you're going for mass appeal, but again, it's the same thing as when you market something as not a musical, and then, as we said before, people hate a surprise musical. You market this as a Selena Gomez vehicle, and then you go there and she's not really in it.
No.
Yeah.
Because, so, Selena Gomez plays the cartel boss's wife. Okay. And she's definitely, like, a secondary, if not a tertiary character. Like, she doesn't do much until the last, like, 10 minutes of the film. And I looked it up. It's 2 hours and 10 minutes. So it's still a relatively long film.
Yeah.
She's not consistently on a screen until the last 10, 15 minutes. And it's really frustrating for me to see the conversations of Selena getting overshadowing the context of the film and the two other women characters who are, like, actually doing fantastic work, are doing fantastic things with their characters, and Selena is just so bland to watch. And this kind of gets us into this general critique of Selena, because I don't know if this was after the film came out, but clips were coming out of her during her, like, song that she was doing. And people were critiquing it because it sounds like she's reading off of a page because she is not fluent in Spanish. And the fact that she's not fluent in Spanish is not the issue at all. It's that she accepted a role for this film that requires her to, like, have conversations and sing, which is arguably a little bit, like, it's more difficult to, like, sing and express, like, emotions and stuff like that. It takes a lot more work when she doesn't have a connection to the language, and so she's not expressing the feelings of what she's saying. And a lot of people were, like, said that it sounds like she's speaking, like, High Valyrian or, like, Dothraki from Game of Thrones, because it's so just, like, it sounds like she's chanting in Latin.
Okay.
And it's so frustrating to see her compared to Zoe Saldana, which also, she switches between English and Spanish throughout the film. You can understand what she's saying. You can tell that she's emoting.
Because she's also fluent in the
She is
language.
fluent. And that's not to say, I think someone who's not fluent in language could have done this role, but it's because it's Selena Gomez. And we're going to talk about this too, but neither of us are the biggest fans of Selena Gomez, because it doesn't seem like she's ever taken the craft seriously and worked to take critiques to better herself in the performances that she gives. Yeah. And it's just frustrating that, like, because she's Selena Gomez, quote unquote, she gets this role when you could have just cast someone who's bilingual, who could have done a more effective job at this role.
Here's my two thoughts. Obviously, I haven't seen the film, so I'm not going to speak to her performance on the film. I'll be fair. Actually, I do have one question, because this is one thing I've seen people respond in support of her, and I just want to clarify this. People have said that her character in the film doesn't speak Spanish very well, or Spanish is a secondary language. What do you have to say?
I'm glad that you said that, because after I watched it, I was like, was I just, like, not watching the same film? Because they never say that.
Okay.
Unless I completely missed it, which I don't think that I did. They never say that she's, like, not from Mexico. She mentions at one point that she does have a sister in the States, but that's pretty much it. And she does speak with an American accent when she's speaking English. But I don't know if that's just because she doesn't... That's just her in her talking voice, or if she has, like, the capability of, using an accent.
I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard her use an accent before, now that I think about it.
No. And so that's why I'm like... Okay, but is that, like, an actual story choice, or is that just because Selena Gomez doesn't have that capability and range?
Yeah. So here are my thoughts on all of this Selena stuff, because I think when I was younger, I obviously watched her on Wizards of Waverly Place, and I think that might be the crux of her like intense popularity, is that she holds a big nostalgic factor for a lot of people. And like Alex Russo as a character was a fun character that I think she played really well. I have yet to see a performance by her since that has really compelled me. Not that they've all been awful, but nothing that has been like, oh, I would love to see her in like different roles. It's just like, oh, Selena Gomez here, that's fine, sure. Like I just don't feel much about it. I do take issue with where there was critique of her from a prominent Mexican actor saying like her performance was kind of blasé, like it didn't feel like she was putting emotion into the performance, which I understand is very hard when you don't speak a language. And so you're holding in your mind, okay, I need to say these words correctly and pronounce them correctly, but I also need to perform. And my response to this is twofold, is that one, yes, it would have been better to just hire an actress who is bilingual. There are a lot of very popular actresses who are bilingual. Like the people always act like the people who were cast were the only option. I'm like, that's never true. And I don't think it would be like taking away an opportunity from Selena, but I also think that whoever's on her team, like, given her talents, like there are ways to like make her shine in a role. Like I think when like the way that she is positioned in Only Murders in the Building, it like works because like she kind of is this sort of like foil to like the antics of Steve Martin and Martin Short. Like it works. But I will say I do not like that people put everything on the actor in situations like this, because it reminds me of Elizabeth Berkley in Showgirls, and that's roll with me. It's an extreme example, but I'm sorry, when I saw Showgirls and I saw that performance, I'm like, okay, yeah, it was a little overdone, a little campy, a little crazy, but there had to be multiple checks and balances for that to make it to the screen. And people don't realize that. And especially with Emilia Perez, if you have a good director, even if you're not speaking a language that you know, your director should be telling you which beats to take, at which point to emote, and do all that. The fact that he did not do that for her is also failing on the director's part as well. But at the same time, he don't speak Spanish. So you know what? That's so all around it just feels a little like there is like really good bones to this, but maybe the way it was approached was not the best. Doesn't mean it didn't need to happen, but I will say my issue with Selena, because in response to this, she's been like, well, I worked really hard. Like, I'm sorry it's not up to like what people think. And I'm just like, okay. Yeah. Okay. You can work really hard at something and still not be good at it. What you need to do as someone who's like, okay, because I'm going to say this, and this is not like a critique of her character. This is a critique of her as a employee, because people need to really think about this as an employee. If you are working really hard and you are not meeting the requirements of your job, you either need to realize that maybe the job is not for you, or you need to seek out additional education and training. That is how any approach to any job is. I understand as a celebrity and an actor, it's tied so much to your personality and who you are. But in any other job, you would go to training. You would go do this. And I'm not sure, like, I don't know what training she has done, like, kind of later into her career, because I do not believe you ever stop learning. I don't think you should ever stop learning. You should constantly be training. Like, we've also really just lost the art of not acting coaches, but acting school, like a Stella Adler and that kind of thing. And there's great richness to be gained from that. So that's my only disappointment, is just kind of saying like, well, I worked really hard. I'm like, yeah, you can work really hard. It doesn't mean anything, because if you worked really hard but it didn't create the product you wanted, maybe you just need to reorient the way that you are working hard. I also would like to go against the people who bring up her physical or mental illness as a reason not to critique her. I'm like, first of all, let me say that, like, having a physical illness and a mental illness doesn't detract you from making good art. And I think that it's kind of ableist to say that just because she has lupus, she is not able to perform at the similar level to her peers, because it's a difference to understand when things are hindered due to physical ability and when things are hindered due to like an emotional disconnect. And I do not like that people are lowering her standards because she has lupus. I don't like that at all. That's a disservice to her, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that's something that I was seeing online quite a bit is like, this is her profession. Mm-hmm. This has, honestly, you could take out everything we know about her. Mm-hmm. If we're just grading her based on her profession, she's okay. Could use, she's fine. She could use some work. And
that also, my thing is like, even if she didn't want to like put in the work, it's okay to be an okay actress.
Yeah.
It's okay.
But I think the problem is she's trying to market herself as like a serious actor without having the chops to back it up. And that's a valid critique.
Yeah, I think that's a valid critique. I don't know if I've seen her in any dramas that have really compelled me. I do like her in comedies. I think that's where she thrives, but obviously we live in a society that doesn't value comedies as much.
Yeah, and I think this is also, like I said, my frustration with how she's being marketed as this like serious actor, because I looked up the Golden Globe nominations, and this movie is it's nominated for a lot of things, so I think
it's the most nominated film.
It's nominated for Best Motion Picture of Musical or Comedy, Best Motion Picture for Non-English Language. Mm-hmm. Carla Sofia Gascon is nominated for Best Performance by a Female Actor. Selena Gomez is nominated for Female Actor in a Supporting Role alongside Zoe Saldana, which I'm going to talk about that one. Mm-hmm. It's nominated for Best Director and Best Screenplay and 2 Best Original Songs. Okay. So it's like pretty heavy hitter for this one. I imagine we'll see some of the same in the Oscars. Mm-hmm. But I think it is such a huge disservice to Selena, specifically, to be put in the same category as Zoe Saldana. In the same movie, when Zoe Saldana does 10 times as much as Selena does, not even just like Zoe is on the screen pretty much from like the start of the film to the end, and she does so much interesting. It's just like, she has such a good performance. She understands the character. Mm-hmm. She understands the songs. She nails the choreography. She gives so much enthusiasm and emotionality into this performance. And then Selena just looks so flat in comparison. Just with the performance that she gives. And it's so frustrating that they're in the same category when skill-wise, they are just like not even in the same realm. Mm-hmm. And it feel like I'm being duped as like an audience member of like, with all this promotion of Selena at the beginning, but then also if you're looking at this as a film and like you're saying that Zoe and Selena are like on par with each other, when based on what I watched, they are not even on the same, like, they're not on the same boat.
I haven't seen Zoe do much. I mean, maybe I'm sure they've done press. It just hasn't been as popular as the Selena Gomez campaign. So, but I also, again, with the award ceremonies, like, we know this, it's very political, and it's all about like who wants it more. That's essentially what it is. Because like when people are like, oh, I don't care about the awards, but they're on the award circuit, I'm like, you have to put in an effort to do that. So you care a little bit, you know? Yeah. So when people like bring up like the whole Cillian Murphy, like, oh, he doesn't care, I'm like, yeah, no, you have to apply. You have to put in effort. And there's nothing, and I think we stop vilifying people who want awards. It's okay to want an award, okay? It's fine. Yeah. It's not everything, but it's okay if you want to take home a trophy. It's great to want that. It feels good. But I think for Selena, that might be what she's chasing, is like, I think actors at their core are, it's not people pleasing I'm looking for, but they live for the sound of the applause. They live for praise. And for her, especially as someone who grew up in like the Disney machine, to now gain that sort of acclaim from a totally different like echelon of people who she respects and reveres, I understand that. I think that what I would like to see her do is kind of be in projects that maybe like tease out some of her other talents, because my thing is that, you know, like I said, I think she does comedy pretty well. I think she does the very deadpan comedy really well, because that kind of is her natural resonance. And I'm like, you can do that. And that's what I'm saying, is that like, it's just speaking towards the talents that she already has and teasing them out. And I'd love to see her do that more, because Yeah, I just think that having a team around you that knows your skill set and knows how to market that and use that for good is really good to have. And I think time and time again, I just think I see her in so many mismatch roles that don't make her look very good.
Yeah.
So, which is the most political way for me to say all this.
I know.
But the thing, I don't dislike her. I think she makes great makeup. That Rare Beauty concealer has carried me through. That Rare Beauty lip oil.
Yeah.
Okay. I think again, again, that's utilizing you know what? I see this little gap in the market. Let me occupy that. Smart move.
Yeah.
Smart move.
Smart about it.
Exactly.
And I think that's the thing is like, you have to be smart about your roles. You have to be smart about your talents. You have to understand and know yourself enough to know what you can and cannot do.
Yeah.
And then if you do something that you cannot do and people critique it, accept that critique. Don't make excuses.
Yeah.
Work on it.
And that's my thing. And I think she works hard. Yes. But I think also because she's one of those billionaires that like, I guess if you grew up poor, you're self-made. So she's like self-made because she grew up poor. And I think that, and again, I don't know this about her, but this is something I see elsewhere, is that when you grow up with nothing, you are sometimes told that if you work hard enough, you will get what you want. And people will respect you for it. But then people don't understand that there is a limit to your talents. There's a limit to your ability sometimes. Yeah. And sometimes when you work hard enough, you won't be rewarded. You will not be acclaimed. And I think that might be a hard thing for her and maybe a lot of other people to reckon with. Because, look, I grew up with a father that told me, I will never tell a kid that they can do whatever they want if they work hard enough. Because he said, that's just not true. I used to run track. He was like, none of these kids are going to be Usain Bolt, but their parents are going to tell them that. He's like, why do we lie? Why do we set kids up for failure?
You're right.
Because then he's like, when people tell you that, you don't know how to pivot later on.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm just saying. You got to learn how to pivot.
You got to
you got to learn how to pivot. And I think Selena, I don't know if this was the role for her. But you know what? Kudos to her for doing all this and making it this far. And kudos to her on her engagement, because I can't get over that ring.
It's gorgeous.
It's a gorgeous
it's
ring.
A stunning ring. Yeah.
And you know what? Here's what I'll say. Because we both made jokes, but you know what? We don't take it. We don't take it to the internet like weirdos.
Exactly.
We keep it in the privacy of our home.
Make jokes.
Okay.
In private text messages.
Because there's a difference between talking shit and bullying. Okay.
Yeah.
We don't do that. Bullies. And I know a lot has been said about the pairing of her and Betty Blanco from an aesthetic perspective. But you know what I will say? I bet of all the boyfriends, he treats her the best.
Yeah.
You're like, Naveen, I know.
Yeah.
And you know what?
What's so wrong with that?
What's so wrong with that? That's a man she needs to marry. Okay?
Yeah.
Who's going to worship her, who's going to make her feel like she is the gift to earth. Yeah. You know what? Look at that. Look at that. Look at that ring. Look at that ring. Oh,
it's a great
gosh.
Ring. Yeah.
It's not tacky. It's beautiful. It fits who she is. So, you know what? And for that, congrats, Selena.
Congratulations.
Big for you. You know what? I know she wants that. And I know she wants the family. I know she wants the kids, even though that's complicated now. Which makes me sad. I don't like hearing about women with infertility issues. It really makes me sad.
We're not going to talk about that right now.
No, okay. But yeah, all to say, Selena, your team needs to regroup.
Yeah.
And figure that out. And maybe just
everyone should watch Emilia Perez.
Yeah.
Everyone go watch Emilia Perez. It's phenomenal. It's fantastic.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. Go watch it.
Okay. Yeah. And you know what? There's always room for improvement with Selena. And I say that not in a patronizing way. She's so young.
That's my thing. Young. Is like, I would love her to prove me wrong. I wish for the day. I want the day to come where I can get on this mic and just.
Yeah, because we'll admit it. Great. We for sure will sit there and be like, you know what? She did the thing.
She did the work.
Selena Gomez did the thing. Oh God. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Exciting.
Anyways, that's all I've got to say about this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a great segue into our next point because I think the reason also I'm being so political and like kind of trying to be like, well, it's all these other factors, is because at my core, I'm afraid of stans. I'm afraid of them. That is a rabid species of person that I don't understand. I don't relate to them. They are not my kin. Okay, I don't mess with those, okay?
They're frightening.
Exactly. And Selena stans particularly. Like, when people love Selena Gomez, they love Selena Gomez.
Ride for her.
Yeah, and I'm just like, hey, I'm sure she appreciates it to some extent, but at the same time, like, you don't know her. And
you've never met her.
You know, and I'm glad that we have introduced this concept of parasocial relationships, and we've really been having conversations about it. Has it helped? No. But it's helpful for people like us to be like, so that's what I'm looking at right now.
That's why you are the way you are.
Yeah. And I think stan brain is akin to something of a mental illness, because I wanted to find them, and if I find them, I'll put them in the show notes. But I love, my favorite tweets or like Tumblr posts are the ones where people go to like rehabilitation, or they get put on Lexapro or Zoloft, and they're like, actually, you know what? Now that my brain is better, I don't want to be a stan anymore.
Yeah. It cracks me every time. They're like, hey, I actually just got back from rehab. I'm not actually interested in this. I was just mentally ill.
Yeah, and you're hyperfixating to cope with the rest of your... And that's fine. But you can be a fan of something, but when you make it your life and you're negative to people online and you can't handle critiques of who they are, ooh, girl.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Tell me a little bit why you're thinking about this.
Why I'm thinking about stan brain?
Yeah.
Well, okay. So we talked about Wicked last time, and we dabbled into conversations of certain cheating scandals that happened on the set of that. But either yesterday or the day before, Doctor, because I'm going to put respect on her name.
Put some respect on the name.
Yes, and the work that went into that. Dr. Lily J, who is the former wife of Ethan Slater, who plays Bach in Wicked. Also, he originated the role of SpongeBob SquarePants in SpongeBob SquarePants, the musical on Broadway.
Yes. She did a fantastic job, by the way.
No, I've heard that musical's great. So, as we all know, Ethan Slater is now dating Ariana Grande. There was a big scandal when they got together. There was allegations of cheating on his former wife, Lily J, especially because they had just had a child together. I'm pretty sure the child was maybe 9 months, 10 months old. Really sad situation. Lily J wrote an article for The Cut, basically not describing the like nitty-gritty details of the divorce, but the aftermath for her on a personal and professional level, because I don't think this was revealed, or it wasn't widely spread at the time, but she is a therapist. She works with clients, specifically clients who are having, I think, trouble with infertility or trouble conceiving, or like new mothers or people who've lost children. Her work is based on privacy. It is based on this agreement and this partnership that you have with your client to protect each other's information and identities. And it talks about the aftermath of going through something so public, like the drama of her divorce and then him moving on with someone so famous like Ariana Grande. And the way that it happens now threatens her career and her well-being, and how she like was apologizing to her patients that she no longer gets to be a private person. Like, she's like, I'm sorry I'm not invisible anymore, and that this has invited this scrutiny that I never asked for. And also the really devastating fact that she said, you never think a plane is going to crash when you get on. And she's like, I really did not think I was going to get divorced. I really did not think it was going to happen when we had just had a baby, when I had almost dealt with near fatal complications having this baby. And then with a 2-month baby, moved to London to be with him while he was filming Wicked, when he was probably, you know, falling for Ariana. And I think that I was thinking of Stan Brain because of the ways that Ariana fans, Arianators, if you will, have really come out against Dr. J.
Yeah.
And her claims and being like, you're just trying to like drag Ariana's name through the mud. You like, this was all disproven. And I'm like, no, nothing was disproven. Nobody said anything. It's always just been kind of like what people are saying out there. It's not true. And I'm like, there's really no other way to cut this, in the sense that a home was broken one way or another. Has so much blame been put on Ariana and not on Ethan? Yes. That's my one issue, is that the fact that like,
oh, for sure,
it takes two to tango, and it's only because Ethan Slater doesn't have the bigger profile. But now he's getting there, and so now we need to talk about the ways that his choices affected his former wife and their child.
Yeah.
And that's my thing, is like, there's a child involved, and I understand, like, yes, marriages can dissipate, and especially when a child is born. I have seen people turn into different people. Most of the time men, which is something that is really scary, and I love to find an article or research on it of why they don't see it as a partnership anymore once, you know, in a heterosexual pairing, the woman has a child and they just feel the need to be someone different. I understand that maybe this was a pairing that wasn't going to work based on, she has a great line, and I'm paraphrasing here, of how her work was based on privacy while his work was based on applause.
Yeah.
And that is a very difficult line to toe. But when you enter a marriage, you understand that and you respect that. And his actions disrespected that promise and disrespected that partnership. I think everyone should read that article, because I think it says so much more than about all this drama or whatever. And I think it would be really helpful for women who've maybe been in a similar situation or entering relationships now to understand, because another great line she has is that, like, all the good things that you see in your partner are all the good things about you reflected back to you.
Yeah.
And I cried while reading this, because it devastates me sad that she has to continue to find the bright side.
Yeah. And like, she's losing so much more than Ethan does. Like, she's lost access to like her work and her job, because she's even talking about like how like sometimes like patients will show, or like certain like lineups that she has will like kind of disappear, and she's always left wondering, is this because of
all this drama,
my personal life and the issues that I didn't orchestrate? And yeah, it's just so sad that like she's left picking up the pieces of this as someone who didn't sign up to be in the public eye, and is just basically like a casualty of the affair. Yeah. Her and her child. Yeah. Because also her kid is going to grow up and read about all of this in the papers about his, or I think the child's a boy, I think. So like his mom and his dad, and like their very public split. And that's going to be so tough. And I'm very glad that the child has a therapist for a mother who can like talk him through that, work through that with him. But like, it's just so unfair of it all. And I mean, taking this back to like Stan Brain and stuff like that, just how much more diabolical it's gotten with like all of our social media access. We're like, Stan Twitter back in the day, scary. Scary. Still to a degree.
Back when Twitter used to mean something.
Oh my God. If you got on the wrong side of like Ariana fans, if you got on the wrong side of
One Direction fans,
Nicki Minaj fans,
ooh, the barbs.
You would have to hide. Yeah. And it's still to a degree, and it's just kind of migrated to TikTok as well.
Yeah. And it's people leaving like really
like vile comments.
And that's my thing. It's like, we're sitting here, like, we just had a conversation, like, critiquing Selena Gomez. Do we wish ill on Selena Gomez? No. We're doing this because we're like, I would love to see her thrive, do well. She seems to be thriving now, so that's great. It's fine. These are not people that we will meet in real life. But my thing is that for you to sit there and dismiss the actual trauma of a woman who does not have an army of millions of people vouching for her That's like
Yeah.
actually like just let things happen. Let her write
yeah.
this essay, because that's a really real hurt that the media is now spinning as this fairy tale love story between Ethan and Ariana.
Yeah.
And like maybe they go on, they're together forever, love of their lives, sure. I don't know if I'm happy for them, but like I mean like sure, do that. It still doesn't negate how it started, you know?
Yeah.
And I recommend everyone, because I don't know. Actually, he has a Substack. I was like, well, TikTok's going to go away. One of my favorite TikTokers, really good Substacker, Tell the Bees. You can look that up on Substack or TikTok. Has a series on American cheating and the ways that American culture is really averse to conflict. And whenever celebrities or high-profile couples cheat and then end up with that person that they cheated with, the media likes to spin it as a true love story, a Hollywood fairy tale. Like they had to leave their ex-spouse in order to find the love of their life. And basically watering down the moral quandaries that it took to get to that place. He's very, very good at breaking this all down. And it very much is the difference between like bullying these celebrities and actually like speaking about morality in a greater cultural conversation. So yeah, like it's like we don't say this to be like Ariana Grande is a bad person or like Ethan Slater is a bad person. Like I don't know these people. I don't know these people.
And you know what? That's truly it. As saying we don't know these people, because some people on social media, they're acting like they're like they're best friends with a celebrity, and just the way that people will go to bat. Because I sent you a TikTok a few days ago, and it was a video about Ariana and how she likes to change races sometimes.
Oh yeah, yes, Blackiana.
Blackiana. It was a video compilation.
I'll say it. I miss Blackiana. She was so fun.
You know what? It was fun. It was fun. But it was a TikTok of like Blackiana being like, "This is my cookie. This is my juice."
Girl, I love that video.
She's darker than me in that video, so
yeah, she was. Probably an issue. That spray tan was crazy.
Yeah, but anyway, it was a video of her like during her Blackiana phase versus like the Wicked phase where she's like pale blonde.
Yeah,
I'm talking like this right now, and so it was basically the comments were what you would expect of like people laughing and like making jokes about her changing races. But then I saw a comment, and it really tickled me. That was like, actually, she had to change the way that she was speaking to protect her vocal voice, like her vocal cords for Wicked. I'm like, did she call you up and tell you that? Did the doctors?
She had to lose her black scent.
She had to use her black scent to protect her vocal cords. You're gonna look at me in my eyes and tell me that?
No. That's people alter their voices to protect their vocal placement, but this is something different. This is
not the same thing.
No, this is us just poking fun. Like, we're not even like canceling her. We're just saying that, you know, it's funny how she used to act like Victoria Monet and now she doesn't, you know?
Yeah.
And that's my thing. And also, another layer to this is that I can say that like I feel really bad for Lily J, and also still hold sympathy for Ariana and everything she's been through. Because I really ran her back. And I was like, Manchester was crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, losing Mac Miller? Crazy.
Yeah. It was a lot. Like,
no, that's my thing. It's like, what people don't understand is they can have nuance. And they can, like, hold two things at once. Is that, like...
Yeah.
And also hurt people. You know? Yeah. And, again, nobody knows what happens. I mean, we can kind of guess. But my thing is that like it's not an indictment on these people, but it's a greater conversation about the way people leave their spouses, the way people will leave their families, about the ways that often women are left to pick up the pieces of their spouse's mistakes. And that's the problem, is the fact that we as a society have turned towards bullying this woman. We don't know anything about her, and we've critiqued
on behalf of someone that you don't know.
On behalf of someone you don't know, because she didn't react and she didn't sit down and take it, and that's what that is because you didn't like when a woman didn't sit down and take it and didn't just like accept that she no longer had the family that she wanted, and that's something y'all need to sit with.
Yeah, maybe pick up a hobby.
Yeah.
Maybe the next time you want to argue on behalf of a celebrity who doesn't know you.
Yeah.
Who will never take the time to know you. Maybe go read a book.
Because my thing
Maybe
is,
go color.
Ariana will be fine. She has Ethan Slater now. Like,
she's great. She's
you
set
know
up.
what? And
she's talented. She'll be fine.
She'll be fine. Again, this is not a moral, like, decision making on anything. It's just that, like, get off the internet. Stop commenting on things and disparaging people unless you have some sort of critique to back. If it's a critique, sure. But if it's just you being mean for no reason, like, I don't get it. Are we hypocrites? Are we being mean?
No, and I'll say I say no because I feel like we have reasons for saying the things that we do, and we're not telling someone to like go off themselves like people do on the internet.
Oh God, I hate seeing that.
It's really strange. But like no, like we're bringing nuance to the conversations. We can explain why we're feeling this way. We're not wishing ill will or ill intent. We're not saying like
And I think about that a lot in the ways like when I'm like critiquing a celebrity, because I'm like, I don't like how I feel icky about the way all this probably went down, but I did love Eternal Sunshine as an album.
And that's
I'd be listening to that and I'm like, ooh, the boy is mine. And then I think about it and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Cheers. Yeah. But you know, that's the whole thing, is that like it's the difference between like us saying like, hey, that was kind of and someone being like, you can't talk about her. I'm like, okay, what?
Says who?
Yeah, come on guys. Just be chill. You can still love your people.
Chill out a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just take it down a peg.
Damn. But that's really all I have for today. I'm talked out.
Yeah, I think that's me too. Covered a lot.
Yeah.
We did childhood education, Emilia Perez, Selena Gomez, Stan Braid, Ariana, Blackiana.
I know. We said Selena Gomez, and like I have to do makeup for tonight. I'm excited to use that concealer.
Oh, I know. The makeups.
Oh, when I got that shade match in Sephora, it was so perfect. I literally was just like, oh.
Yeah.
Selena. Okay. And the brow gel.
I think
all my makeup is Rare Beauty.
It's so good.
It's really good.
Yeah. So props, Selena. Good job. Keep up the good work.
Yeah. No. Happy for you. Congrats on your engagement. Ariana, congrats on Wicked. Very excited for Wicked for Good. Because that title is so good.
I know.
Yeah. Very happy for everyone. Life will go on. The world will keep turning. But sometimes we gotta stop and reflect.
Yeah.
And nothing's gonna come of it.
No.
We're not influencers. We're not, like, important.
We could be.
We could
be.
With
viewers like you.
Well, you're important to me.
Aw, you're so important to me.
Okay. Okay.
All right, everyone. We will talk to you later, and we'll just keep giving you great hits. All the hits.
Yeah. We'll talk to you soon about whatever new thing is bothering us.
Yeah, because it truly is. It's truly whatever's just grinding our gears.
Yeah. Well, I hope you guys are all well. Have a lovely holiday season.
Yeah.
Check in with your loved ones. Make sure they're okay. And rest up before January.
Yeah. Ooh, yep. We'll be back. We'll still be yapping.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.